America, New York, USA, and Toronto, Canada. Her work in neighborhood centers around fostering the spiritual development and empowerment of children and youth that so they recognize how their own development can contribute to building a community life that everyone enriches from. Bahia is currently working with the St. Jamestown community in Toronto while she completes her master's degree in architecture at the University of Toronto. Sasha Arnett has been engaged in the spiritual education and empowerment of children and youth in several places, including China, Japan, and Canada. Her volunteering work focuses on facilitating and accompanying people to recognize their reality and develop their intellectual and spiritual faculties that translate into meaningful action towards building a unified and supporting community. Sasha is currently volunteering full-time in the St. Jamestown community in Toronto. She is completing her bachelor's degree in psychology and education at the University of Toronto. Now I'll pass it over to you guys.
Thank you. That was beautiful. We were going to do an introduction, but I think that was thorough enough, and we loved it. Oh, we just want to welcome everyone and thank you so much for having us at this space. We're very honored to be able to share our experiences in the neighborhood. So before we start everything, we just want to let you guys know that we wish we could have been a bit more prepared with our talk, but unfortunately, yesterday there was actually a fire that happened right above us. So our apartment is suffering from quite severe water damage. So we had to relocate all of a sudden, but we are safe. And that's all that matters for now. So forgive us if we don't have amazing effects going on. All right. So as you can tell, that our title is community building and how it enriches the lives of junior youth and children. So we want to first explore why community building. So when we look at our world right now, our world is really affected by many adversities and forces that create very negative events or things happening around us that really affect us and our growth and how we see ourselves and others, and as well as how we function as a collective human body. So obviously we want to see changes that can remedy these negative events or incidences. And so on the one hand, we can look at changes to fight these events on a very grand and systematic level. However, we can also look at how those changes can happen on the grassroots level. So starting from our neighborhood and our communities with people around us. And one of the ways that we've been doing that is to just look at our neighborhood and the development of children, teenagers, and young adults. Because spiritual education of such can be likened as to an armor that will protect young people as they grow older and come into contact with hardships, because they become more equipped to deal with the challenges given, and they're given sharper tools to address the world than the previous generation. Mm-hmm. So exactly. So just to summarize, we want to create sort of an environment that's marked by sincere friendship and a common purpose, which is to serve the well-being of the humankind. And we do so by engaging the whole community's efforts and learning about this process of walking this path that serves humanity, and this path that we walk side by side with one another, and that everyone is able to participate. So that's why we really need to engage and reach everyone in the neighborhood.
And so, like, a question that we ask is, sorry, the volume. Like, why are youth so important? And so we see in youth that they're young, they're full of enthusiasm. We are full of that we're concerned with the plight of humanity. And we want to see a change in society. We are not complacent with what exists. And, you know, like, we see in ourselves the capacity and want to develop that so that, like, the future generations don't have to endure maybe what what we have, or what the generations past have endured. And so the vision is very lofty, and we're not tainted the same way that maybe like adults can become after you experience a lot of hardships. It's easy to become a bit tainted, but youth are so full of energy that why couldn't we do this, you know? And so it's through the Ruhi Institute, which is a distance learning educational process that occurs very much at the grassroots level. And it's a series of books that trains us to serve our communities. And it's like this, we study very interesting quotations that seemingly are very simple, but really very complex. So when we look at like the betterment of the world can be accomplished through true, pure and goodly deeds, through commendable and seemly conduct, really like, what does this look like in my day-to-day life? What does it look like as a community? And so like, what does it look like also within an institution level? So this is like, what is the basis of this training process?
Okay, so I think that was great. Not great. That was a good foundation laid. And then I think now we can kind of share with you our experiences, our personal experiences with serving in communities so far. So, right, so we can start with some of my experiences. So when I was about 15 years old, I was approached by some people who lived in my neighborhood that I was living in then, which is in Macau, China. So I was told that, oh, here's a group of children, please teach them. I didn't know much about children. I didn't know why I was supposed to teach them. Didn't know much of how those actions would impact the community at all. But I was just told that children really benefit from people closer to their age when it comes to teaching them. So I decided, sure, why not? Let's do that. But it was communicated to me that my role as a children's class teacher was to regard children as sort of like this mind that was rich in gems of value. And then education, especially moral and spiritual education, would allow them to reveal these treasures. And then these children would benefit severely from these treasures being revealed. Also, when you think of it, these young people become the new generation that governs and takes responsibility for the world. So it was very important at that time, at a young age, that I knew that it was very important to have this education be given for children. So in the children's class, a typical class would focus on a virtue. So for example, truthfulness. So together we would explore sort of a quotation about the virtue. So in the example of truthfulness, we would look at quotations such as, truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. So we'll then go through the concept of this virtue using daily examples and scenarios. And we also have children share their own understanding as well as listen to their peers' thoughts. We also create a lot of space for storytelling, visual arts, drama, and more to enrich sort of their understanding and exploration of these topics, as well as how they impact their own lives and the lives of other people. So fast forward, during university, which was a few years ago, at the start of university, I had a lot of free time at hand, and I really wanted to know how what I was learning was connected to the population that I was then going to be working for. And I was also living alongside this new population in Toronto. So I connected with some of the Baha'is in this area who were engaged in community building. So these were a group of people who were very focused and very driven by this sort of education. So that was why I contacted them. And then they had some groups going on in the neighborhood. So that's how I got involved. As I gained some insight into how to accompany the growth of young people in this neighborhood that I live in right now. And also I became more familiarized with the population's reality that they live in. I had a better sense of how to be of service to this community. So since I had a few years of experience in teaching children's classes, I was invited to tutor some 15-year-olds who were teaching children in the neighborhood. And what I was tutoring them was how to teach children's classes. And this was amazing because when I was 15, I was approached just like how I'm approaching them now. So it was funny how it was a loop, but this was happening in Canada, and I was kind of mind blown that this had happened to me in China and it's in Canada. And I really was made aware that this was happening all around the world. which gave this sense of, wow, like change from this local level, but accumulated change can really make a difference to localities. And this kind of change looks different because it really reflects the reality of those neighborhoods. So these young teenagers that I was helping to learn about how to teach were already engaged in teaching young children. So our learning and our discussions were very grounded in experience, and they knew children's ability to learn, and then they were aware that children were able to consider very profound and meaningful concepts. So they knew that these young teenagers were very passionate and very interested in learning because they had already experienced children firsthand. So currently, I continue to accompany these young teachers in the St. Jamestown neighborhood with their classes. So every week, we create materials based on the Ruhi Institute materials that Bahia was mentioning. And also we plan how to carry out the lessons. We try to invite new children through our weekly classes, which are held in the parks, or currently it's being held on Zoom, but we come up with very creative ways to invite new people. We have the children invite their friends too. And at the end of the class, we come together and reflect. So together with the youth, we learn really to respond to the needs and the growth of children. And also I see in these teenagers, this development week by week in their skills to be more and more sensible in reading the needs of children. So it's very beautiful to witness firsthand to like the growth of children, but also these youths that are accompanying the children.
So then feeding off of what Sasha was saying, when I moved to Toronto a few years ago, I was like starting grad school in architecture. And although architecture is very intense, I was like, I can't exist in a world where I'm not serving my neighborhood. And so I had, like, in the previous years, I'd fallen in love with the potential of junior youth. And so when we say junior youth, we mean the age of 12 or 11 to 15. And the world sees this age as like an age of transition. Maybe they're very moody, they ask a lot of questions, they're just like going through a phase. But what we see in this age group is an acute sense of justice, immense potential, and that they have all this energy that needs to be channeled towards service to humanity. And so, like, they're not children anymore because they're seeing more of the world, right? Like, they're asking harder questions about who they are and who they want to be. And so the Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program seeks to develop these capacities towards service to humanity. And so it's very simple, really. Like, you have a group of 12-year-olds who are all friends, and maybe somebody who's a bit older, who's an animator, and they're called an animator because they bring life to a group. And so they study together a concept maybe about like how your efforts, the more that you make effort, the more that your actions are confirmed. And then they also carry out service activities. And this is so interesting because, like, for a group of 12-year-olds to identify a need in their community and respond to that need through action is so powerful as a 12-year-old to experience. And like an example I've seen is like a junior youth group that I was with had realized that their parents and everybody in the neighborhood were throwing trash out the window. And they were like, why do I do it? Why do my parents do it? What is this? So they created a questionnaire, and they then went around the neighborhood and their neighbors and asked us questions. And as they analyzed the questions, they found that the reason was that the parents were doing it. So if the parents are going to do it, they're going to do it. So they wanted to create like an educational space where parents could come and think about, like, why are we doing this? Do we really want the future generations to do it? So you can see, like, this example is so powerful because one junior youth group of like 10, 12-year-olds can really make an impact in the community. So then when I moved to Toronto, I was like, I really want to do this. And I was introduced to a junior youth group. And then when I started going weekly, I realized that we don't have enough youth who are trained as we realized that we don't have enough youth who are trained as children's class teachers and junior youth animators. So our question became, how do we meet more youth? And then the pandemic, like, how do you do this in a world where everything is locked down? So that became our challenge. And like without COVID, it's like quite easy to meet people. You can go to the park, you can I can meet my neighbors, but in COVID, how do you do this? And so in the fall of 2020, we were thinking, how do we draw new youth to the community building process? And winter was looming, all these restrictions were increasing. And so we had to be really creative of how we were going to meet youth. And so we had experience in meeting new people through Zoom gatherings. Like, people would invite their friends and then we would come together and they would talk about the power youth have. And so one individual, one 15-year-old was like, I really want to do this. And so she planned to have a gathering on Halloween night and invite all her friends. And of all her friends, 3 showed up. And so they came, they had a wonderful conversation, they were really motivated, and then 2 returned the following week. And so as they were studying these 3, they decided that they wanted to do this, have a service camp, and then they invited more of their friends. And so then these 8 people so the group had grown to 8, they decided they want to have a camp, but the camp would be of a service project for children and junior youth. So they planned everything themselves with the help of some other experienced animated people. And as time passed, they invited all their friends, and about, I can't remember how many, about 20 children and junior youth came, and about 50 youth would participate in these afternoon camps. And so you could see how effort was really, really required to have more and more people come. And it was during a period where, we had been reading that the lockdown was causing a lot of depression and making people really feel lonely. And so these youth had really seen a need for socializing and to be together. And so that was what they were trying to serve. And they were very new to the process. They hadn't really engaged before, and so this was what they wanted to do, And so what we noticed, the salient features of what we noticed, was that when there was a group of youth who were very dynamic, when new youth entered, these new youth immediately wanted to serve. So example was a new youth joined and he saw a list and there was names of everybody next to different things. And he said, my name's not on the list. And somebody said, oh, you can join me. We'll make this game together. So you could see that when there's this movement, more people will come and more people will want to join. And so as we had camps, we also began to see what is possible. And for instance, if Sasha and I planned something, it would not be as effective if it wasn't alongside all these other 12 youth that were also joining at the time. And so since this period, we also have had 2 more camps. And because of this dynamic, more and more youth have come. And so we've had about 47 youth join. And of the 47, about 12 or so, I don't really remember the accurate number, but they're carrying out children's classes and junior youth groups with their siblings. And so our challenge right now is how do we accompany these individuals to get trained, but then also carry out their projects, their service projects and their classes, with feeling support and not feeling alone. And really that's what we had planned. Oh, Sasha has a slideshow that will show us about what we've been doing. I can see it, yeah. Okay, so you can see, okay, the top left is a children, like during the summer last year, we would have children's classes, but because of the COVID restrictions, we had to do them like apart. So we got these mats that would be like, everybody got a mat. So then you would stay within the restrictions, you know, you stay 6 feet apart. And everybody sat on a mat, and this is the children's class, just doing some fun things together, learning quotations, I think, and reading a story. And then the bottom one was, we did a children's festival in the park, and we were making lanterns to, I guess, be together, and it was very cold that day. And then on the right is, I think, a children's class. Oh yeah, the guy in the red was he grew up in St. Jamestown, and he was approached at very, like, when he was maybe 11 to join a junior youth group, and then he joined the junior youth group, and now he's 24 and he's serving as a children's class teacher, and he is like starting his master's at U of T for education. So he's like an example of an individual in our neighborhood who's gone through this process. And then these are photos that are from different festival, like a junior youth festival from a camp. And then the bottom right is the camp that I was describing, the very first camp we had, the service week camp that we had on Zoom, and we're trying to sing here, but very hard on Zoom. Yeah. So if anybody has questions, I know that like maybe there were some terms or anything that like we could clarify, or if anybody wants to share their own experience with these things too, please.
May I just get your permission, you and Sasha John's permission? One of our friends, Kathy Lang, is here from Montreal. She has been kind enough to leave her job to come here for a few minutes, if it would be okay for Kathy to share her experience. Every Wednesday they have junior youth programs in Montreal, and she just joined them, or I don't know when she joined them. Kathy, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can you listen? Yeah, hello. So, hi everyone, I'm Kathy, and I currently an animator of the Wednesday Junior Youth in Montreal. And so I learned about the whole Junior Youth programs last year in Oakville cluster, and I was learning about book 5 and the whole program, but due to the limitations of COVID and resources, we didn't make it a group in the cluster. And this year, the beginning of this year, I moved to Montreal for university, and then I started to get connected with the community in Montreal, and I started animating and junior youth from the end of March. So since Montreal already have kind of a big group of people working on the junior youth programs and also other core activities, so I was fortunate enough to get enough support from the people around me and to parallel with the French junior youth from the beginning of the year. So I started my own group in English with some of my friends from university as well. And I think as Sahad and other people's experience, the junior youth was started from the winter camp of last year, but I wasn't there. And they have a group of people and also some very wonderful support parents, and they just connect with their friends and many people around them to start a junior youth in French. So right now they already finished working the straight path in French, while we are still learning it in English, so we're about halfway done. And also on Sunday evening, not me, but other animators around my neighborhood also have a French group, a new French group starting, doing the same book as us. And on the top of that, we have the pub meet every weekend. So we basically have 2 locations. We meet the kids, the junior youth and their parents in the park with our animators and other people who also very engaged in those activities. Then we will share our experience and we will talk about the materials of the book we are learning. And also we will, like last week, we have a little discussions on education for the parents. And those material we got from different rookie book, the combination of that, and also the English corner material from Vancouver as well. So as approaching to summer, we are hoping to have 2 more summer camp in July and August. And we will have, we want to have that as a family camp. So children classes, junior youth, and also parent discussions, we can have them both online and in person. So I think that would be a nice opportunity to attract more people. And now our demand is the youth animator, because we have many potential junior youth who join our group as the number is increasing every week. So once I leave this course, I have joined another one to have the youth night with other potential animator. And that's another thing we're doing. And also the parent study circle, because language is, especially French in Quebec, is quite important. So many parents will learn the junior U program or learn about excellent other materials in the parent study circle. So which is really helpful for learning about, to say basically going out with their kids together. And also parents would like to have some more in-depth conversations focused on education. So that's what we are hoping to do on the Friday evening. So to have the parent consultation group to just gather our attention on the social forces or technology issues and those impact may have on our junior youth. Yeah, so overall, all those experience, I learned a lot from them. And especially I see how important the language, say the intellectual and the spiritual empowerment are so critical for this period of youth. And as many junior youth material talk about, so we would like them to establish their literacy, to teach them, to empower them, and how to think more effectively in this age, no matter it's COVID or other, say the global crisis may come in the future, that we want junior youth to have the power, especially the thinking truth, to stay fast in the society and become a better version of themselves and to help our society. So that's the truthful purpose of the program. I think everyone is very familiar with that. So once we have their language, because we have both English and French group, some of you will join kind of 2 or 3 of group, but other people will maybe just interested in one language, but that's all right. Because if we don't have enough, say, vocabulary to describe certain concepts, it's very hard for us to know the spiritual qualities, and it's even harder to develop them. So that's why it's quite important to like not only the language development, because that's kind of the concern for the parents, especially around my neighborhood, but as to learn about the teaching from Baha'u'llah, the spiritual quality is another, like, the big aspect of life. So as them go hands in hands, we are very sure the junior youth, they can develop like the better capacity to help other people around them. And as the service project they have from last month, I guess, was to how someone younger than them or around their age with say French, English, or with other homework. So that's some idea of the service project we will continue our work on. And yeah, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you, everyone.
Bahia, may I just include 3 sentences? On Wednesdays, I tune in to their class as I live my life. And by the time I'm finished with Kathy and her coworker, I have heard 3 languages, French, English, and I think there are some odd Chinese Mandarin words here and there. And the children, you don't see, I'm sorry, junior youth, I apologize. I just want to keep myself young, that's why. So, the junior youth, some of them don't show their faces, and they have some pictures, and these pictures have been the most beautiful, the cutest pictures. Now, Kathy is laughing. I cannot articulate those pictures. These are the stuffed Chinese or this and that, or I don't know. I mean, you look at the picture and then you hear the voice of the angels behind the pictures. And then you hear Kathy very serious, calm, explaining things to them, and the other gentleman in French. I think I am in 7th heaven by the 7:30 when or 7:30 when I shut down. I just wanted in front of all of you to thank Kathy for her heroic job. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, everyone, for letting me speak a little bit. Okay. It's very inspiring. Unfortunately, I have another call, so I have to leave now. And have a wonderful session, everyone. Bye.
So nice to hear what's going on in Montreal. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chi.
Sasha, we're waiting.
Sorry, what are you waiting for?
Any more comments? Any more ideas?
Well, I think we're done with our talk, but we could ask maybe if anyone else wants to share or anyone has any questions, or like the pandemic's been so hard for everyone. I'm sure, like, how have we met people, or how has it been? I don't really know.
I think that's an excellent place to start, actually, if you wouldn't mind sharing how you have been meeting people during the pandemic, and now that things begin, there's signs of things opening up. So what's the vision for your groups as things are sort of in that midway point?
Sorry, could you repeat the end, because our connection was unstable?
No problem. No problem. Just wondering, as things are now showing some promise of signs of, in Ontario anyway, the stages are progressing. What is your vision for this summer, for example, as things are sort of opening up, but not completely opening up? And I'm just curious what your approach is and plan leading into the fall, or what your vision is, at least.
Yes, we're actually very prepared to answer that. We spent last weekend actually for 7 hours just sitting down as a group of 10 youths in this area, just planning for the summer. So we have a calendar. Yeah, 7 hours. We have a calendar blocking out what are we going to do each week. So it starts with because of the pandemic, obviously some children, some junior youth have been very engaged with our Zoom spaces that we've been able to provide, but some of them, because in this community, a lot of people don't have Wi-Fi or don't have stable or don't have devices where they can do online activities with. So that's a reality in our neighborhood. So a lot of people we haven't been able to stay in contact with. So that would be the first line of action, is to physically visit these people. We have a list of children and junior youth that we've been in contact with since before COVID. So we really want to, in any ways, like meet them at parks. That's the only one I can think of right now, but meet them at parks and you know, having these creative ways to meet them. And then we have goals that set up with how many youth we want to be talking to, and yeah, like a lot of the youth that have like participated in the winter camp, like because they were really active on social media, they're like, we're doing this, like look at what we did this camp, or like we're working with children. So then their friends got really interested in it too, and so then they like these youth from the winter camp decided that like we want all of our friends to join, so we're going to show and invite them, and we should invite them in these ways. And so they created flyers and they invited their friends on social media, and then they all come, and then they're doing like the info sessions. So they're sharing like, oh, you can get service hours. And then they come to the info session, and then they realize that, oh, it's not just about service hours. Like I can be transformed as a person. I can like, oh, yes, I should work with my children, my siblings, because they're 12, they don't have children. So like it's these like, that's really the ethic. But you know, it really was we're very dependent, like our growth is very dependent on new youth coming, like the youth and their friends, and them having conversations with their friends. And then like we try to meet our neighbors. Like because of the fire that happened yesterday, we met more neighbors then than we had the whole year. So it also is like, oh, we should probably go and like knock on a neighbor's door and say, hey, you know, I don't know. It's quite daunting to be honest.
But one thing that the kid had talked about that has really worked for our neighborhood, and we don't know how does it work for other neighborhoods, but for our neighborhood, really looking into engaging in a process of learning with the family unit. So he was sharing how about 12 youths now are starting their own classes and groups with their own siblings and cousins. And that level of receptivity, because they're all family, it is something we haven't been able to do just in the neighborhood with strangers that we meet in the park. So yeah, we wish to learn more about that.
Thank you very much. Just one more question. I'm sorry to hog the floor from everyone, just for in Lincoln, I'm in the Niagara cluster, so we're south of you folks across the lake, and we have a relatively small number of youth who are Baha'i themselves. But we are hoping to engage more youth in the wider community, of course. I'm just wondering how the conversation goes when it's not from youth to youth, but maybe adult or older adult to youth. If you've seen that, if you have any advice on how that conversation begins, not sure.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure also other people on this call might have ideas. But one thing that I've seen is really like studying the concepts from book 5 is so helpful. maybe that's annoying to hear because maybe you've heard it a lot, I don't know, but like really this understanding the concept of youth, like the period of youth, why is it so important? And truly like having very genuine conversations, maybe with the Baha'i youth of like how they see their role in society. The youth conference material is really helpful. And then like practicing that conversation with them so that they can have it with their friends. Like how are they able to communicate? Like, is it just this like Baha'i thing that they're inviting their friends to? Or is it like, we're youth and we represent a very particular generation and we want to tap into our society and our problems and we want to do it this way. Like if they feel that strong, the internet's not stable. But if they feel that strongly, then maybe they can communicate it to their friends.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Grace, do you have any questions for these two angels by any chance?
No question for now.
For now.
Thank you so much. It was interesting, very interesting to hear. Congratulations.
Grace is from Cameroon, and Grace and her sister actually take care of many youth who are in Cameroon and they are in difficult positions. Her sister lives in Boston, and they both contribute to, I think, a Christian institution who would take these kids in, and they do a great job.
Grace, are you from Yaoundé?
No, I'm actually from the English part. That is the Northwest.
Wonderful. One of my best friends is from Yaoundé, so I only know that.
Wow, that's interesting. Yaoundé is the capital of Cameroon.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Douala is the economic. Have you ever been to Douala before?
No, a dream. I wish. No, not yet.
Oh, okay. Wow, so good to know.
Now I know. Now I know.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting.
Nadim John, do you have any questions? Nadim joined us from Washington, and we usually don't have the pleasure and honor of having Nadim unless he speaks. But I guess Nadim and you people are friends. So I know that he's outside and he might not be able to speak, but welcome, Nadim. I'm so glad you joined us.
Thank you, Furzande. No, I'm sorry I missed the presentation. I know Bahia from New York City and all of her excellent work in the community. So I'm inspired by her and by everything that they're doing. So thank you.
But Nadim also does wonderful things too in his neighborhood. So we're all learning together.
I think Layli is on this call. She's also in Washington. So we just finished book 1 and we're doing intensive book 2 here in Washington, preparing for a summer of service in the southern region of America, of the United States. So Layli can probably speak to that as well.
Yeah, Layli, what are you doing? Excuse me.
Okay, Ellie's here too, my cousin, and we're doing it together. So we started book 1, I don't know, a few months ago, I don't know. And we just finished it. And we're doing an intensive book 2 to prepare for this program called Summer of Service, which is in North Carolina. And we're just going to, I think it's just like a lot of outreach and teaching and stuff like that for all of July. So That's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be the best. I'm excited for you.
May I ask you if anyone wants to join you, to learn from you, to work with you, to contribute? What should this person do, whether he or she is a youth or whatever? I think you're muted.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't, I can give you my number and you
Okay.
can call and we can figure it out.
Perfect.
I'll just put it in the chat.
Okay, that would be great. Friends, I wanted to say that this was a very, very inspiring evening. And if there's no more questions, I just wanted to say one thing. Tonight, we were supposed to have a different speaker, and you don't know how much work went into inviting him, simply because we were still dealing with Native children and all of that. And that didn't pan out. And through a friend, I got the phone number and the contact information of these two angels. And now that I'm sitting here looking at your faces, I want you to know that the work you're doing is so precious, is so important, is so inspiring, that maybe all of us were just supposed to be here to listen to you. Even our chair canceled on us. The people who always start us off with music and everything else, they said, oh, there's a graduation for our sons, we can't make it. So all of a sudden, I'm sitting here and seeing your faces and your beautiful presentations, and I cannot articulate my gratitude to both of you, and thank you and more power to you.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah. Also, it's so nice to hear about all the other efforts that are going on and the youth everywhere. I mean, building capacity of youth is happening whether or not we want to, so it's very lovely.
And I wanted to thank Layli for joining us and accepting to chair, and also Layli's father, whom I always call as Dr. Cormick, because because we had a beautiful play about the Bob, and we needed someone with that particular accent, and his name came about, and he became the best Dr. Cormick possible, the only Westerner who talked to the Bob and actually acknowledged his presence. So I forgot his main name, and I call him, instead of saying Mr. Watts, he's Dr. Cormick forever.
谢谢您。真的很奇怪。Sasha, did you say you were in Macau?
I used to be, yeah.
Yeah, how long were you there and when was that?
I was born there. I was born and raised there.
Cool. I was there from 92 to 99 at the School of the Nations.
Oh, wow, I was born in 99. So.
Hey, just at that moment. So wait a minute. Who are your parents?
Well, I am Daisy's granddaughter.
Who, sorry?
I am Chris and Yvonne's child, Chris Arnett.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? Does that ring a bell?
No,
It never does. It never does.
I didn't meet, like, I knew most of the people in the year I left, but after 99, I lost contact with everybody because I went to China after that, stayed there for 10 years.
Where in China?
We're in Tianjin in the north, like close to Beijing.
Oh, wow. Yes. I actually moved to Zhuhai. But
Oh,
most people don't
nice.
know the difference. Like,
Yeah.
it's so close. It's just a bridge apart. So
Yeah, I love southern China. I love northern China, but southern China was really where I fell in love. I met my wife there, Layli's mum. She's a teacher at the School of the Nations as well. So yeah, I
School of
love
the
Macau.
Nations?
Yeah. Layli was born in China.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
Do you
Very
speak
Baha'i
Mandarin?
story.
Sorry. Do you speak Mandarin?
I speak, yeah, Mandarin and Cantonese. It's not very useful here, but over there it was like every day.
You can speak with Sasha.
And you learn Cantonese there?
Yes, my mother is Chinese.
Cool. Yeah. So like that, I spoke Mandarin first and then went to Taiwan because that's where all the Baha'i things were happening. There was teaching going on at that time and lots of really big expansion stuff. And so I had some Mandarin, but then when I went to Macau, I got into a cab and I thought, I can speak Chinese, I'm fine here. And the taxi driver says, you can speak Mandarin to me, but you better learn Cantonese very quickly. And I was like, oh, okay. They weren't friendly at all. Like they were not happy that I was speaking Mandarin to them. Like, okay, I'm sorry about that. So I had to learn Cantonese. I did it. It took me a long time though. It's very hard compared to Mandarin.
Wow, very hard. My dad's been there 20 years and he speaks one phrase.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, it took me probably 2.5 years to start speaking Cantonese and maybe 8 months for Mandarin. It's like so much harder. Anyway, there's lots of Baha'is that I knew in Macau that are still there, I think. Hopefully, I don't know if you ever met any of those, but lots of the School of the Nations people, they stuck around.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for today.
Sasha went to School of the Nations.
No way. Oh, that's so cool.
My parents taught there too, so I sure you know them, but maybe the name and the just doesn't ring a bell.
I don't know. I mean, I left midway through 99, just before the handover. So if they came during that time, or trying to think of, I mean, there might have been newer people there. We're sort of packing up and on our way out, so I didn't get to meet everybody. But there weren't that many Baha'is in Macau when I was there. It was a pretty small community.
Yeah, it's quite big now. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Amazing. I love to hear the good news that I think the School of the Nations kind of blossomed a bit too. We were in the old building. We never saw the new building, and it was a very different experience. I think it's doing much better now.
Yeah. That's so funny. You always meet people like all over the world.
Baha'is, I tell you, like they're so connected, even though they're like a microcosm of the world. They're like so interconnected.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's nice to meet everyone.